you didn't have a wedding planner.
No.
You were kind of your wedding planner.
I was.
Is that something you regret not having?
Oh, it is.
What advice would you have for couples planning their own wedding?
I would say don't.
Welcome to the Candid Wedding Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis, a Florida-based wedding photographer. Here we talk to brides and wedding professionals to help you have a stress-free wedding day. I hope you enjoy the show. Don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend. Hello and welcome back to the Candid Wedding Podcast. I'm Alexis and I am so excited to have somebody on today that is super near and dear to my heart. You were my first bride after moving down to Florida.
So exciting.
Yeah. I had a few back in Michigan, so I used to live in Michigan. I moved down here in 2019, but I'd fly back for some summer weddings in Michigan. But Shay was my first wedding in the fall of 2021. And we've stayed in touch. We've went through a lot of transitions together, a lot of life stages together. And I'm just super excited to have her on the podcast. So hi, Shay.
Hello. I don't think I realized that I was your first Florida wedding. We didn't have the wedding in Florida.
No, yeah. It was technically in Franklin.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I should say Nashville or Franklin.
Nashville, Franklin.
I think it's because when you asked me to be your wedding photographer, I'm like, oh yeah, I've done like tons of weddings. Like I'm a wedding photographer in Florida because I like really wanted your wedding.
No, I was obsessed. Like I had been seeing your stuff and I knew you were going to eventually move down here because Troy was down here. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, he keeps talking about this girl, but like, where is she? And I was like loving your content and I'm like, no, I have to have her. Like if we don't have her, I don't want to get married.
Okay, give the people a little breakdown of your planning process.
Okay.
Maybe like why you chose where you had your wedding and kind of what your wedding day looked like.
Yes. So I am now married, but was engaged to a Midwest boy. So his family is in Indiana, and a lot of my family is still in Nashville. So we were like, okay, I don't want to. I mean, Indiana's a great state. Because I know he's going to listen to this. It's a great state. But I didn't want to get married in like the cornfields of Indiana. And so I was like, Nashville's fun. Like we can have like a fun weekend with like our family and friends. And so I was like, that feels like the easiest place. And like, it also felt like a place for like our Florida people where it's like, it's a vacation for you guys too. Mm-hmm. And then also for our invitations, like, I'm like, if you guys don't come, it's totally okay. Like, don't feel pressure to like not come.
Oh yeah. It kind of weeded people out a little bit.
Yes, it did 1,000%.
But also being the photographer and videographer, it did like feel like a vacation for us. Like that was a very fun place to go. And in the fall, you're like, Tennessee in the fall, this is gonna be beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Like all the like leaves and everything, which we don't get here in Florida. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I wanted something that was different, especially since our engagement shoot was very Florida.
Yes.
So that was kind of the thought process there. But as far as like planning, like honestly, I lean more like type A, like very like, this is what I want, like how I want it to be. But the crazy thing is that like in my mind, what I envisioned for my wedding was like Sophia Richie, like her wedding. Or like, who's that girl that just we posted her? Alex Cooper. Yes. I'm like, that's what my wedding's going to be like. No. Bring it down to reality.
I still thought your wedding was extremely classy.
I think so.
I think theirs is more like clean girl.
Yeah. No, it was.
Yeah, like clean girl, old money, like type of vibe.
Yeah, and my family was very much like, we are in Nashville, but like not that part of Nashville.
Yeah. No, I know my family would also be like, Alexis, you did not come from old money. Yeah.
You're like, we are middle class money.
We are DIYing everything.
Literally. No, and we did. So.
Okay, you didn't have a wedding planner.
No.
You were kind of your wedding planner.
I was.
Is that something you regret not having?
Oh, it is. I think it would have helped me foresee some of the kind of not so great moments that popped up throughout the day, because I just wasn't able to like really think through them. Mm-hmm. And I think too it would have helped like give our family and friends like a person outside of me to know to like come to for day of stuff. Yeah. And that's where I like really shot myself in the foot. Like it was not the most ideal.
Yeah.
But I really wish I would have had a person.
Yeah, sometimes on your wedding day I felt like I'm like, don't go to her. So like I like kind of try to step in sometimes where I'm like, let her be. Let her enjoy her day.
Don't touch her.
Yes. I'm like, I am her bodyguard.
Literally.
But you also were point of contact, so I was like, okay, how much can I let you talk
I
to her to
know.
like actually get things done as well?
I know. That was, yeah, that looking back, like I'll tell everyone, I'm like, you need to have a person. Like if you're going to do like a full on like a wedding, like have someone that is like truly like by your side from the beginning, that like basically knows you inside and out, so that when it like the day comes, like you fully trust them and like everyone knows like this is who we need to like go to for everything. Because yeah, that was just a wild ride. I just remember like at different points like looking around and I'm like, shoot, I created this. I put myself in this position. There's no one to blame but me.
Yeah, so is there anything that you regret or would do differently, if like you can speak to like the specifics of it?
Well, definitely the planner side. And I think too, like involving my bridesmaids a little bit more. I think just with like us like having traveled, like a lot of them like are Florida girls. So just with like having them travel and all that, like I think I in the back of my mind like didn't want it to add more stuff like onto their plate, but that's also like what they're there for, is to like help you. So I wish I would have utilized like them more and like their strengths a little bit more. Because like I think that just would have helped, because I obviously trust their judgment. They know me well. And so yeah, I wish I would have like just utilized them a little bit more. And I think like having more conversations with our family about like what were the most important things to us like for the day, and then letting them flesh out like the non-important details that we didn't really care about. I think that would have just helped like just prepared them for, okay, we know like what matters the most to them, so this is what we need to go to bat for them, and okay, they don't care about this, so we can just take the reins on this in that kind of way. Because a lot of it came down to like decorating things and where the tables go and like stuff like that. I'm like, I truly don't care, but to them it mattered, you know. So I wish I would have like delegated stuff a little bit more.
Yeah. And I feel like from being a bridesmaid, and you've also been a bridesmaid, you're just sitting around all day a lot of the time.
Truly.
So like you're like, please give me a job.
Yes.
Like I will go set up all the tables.
Yes.
I will go boss people around. I will do the coffee run. Like you will happily take on all the roles.
And the girls have all like, especially one of my girls, which you know her, Mary.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about it like afterwards, and she's like, yeah, like why wouldn't, she was like, you were like asking me to go and check in on this stuff, but I didn't know like what you wanted to look like. And then just like stuff like that where she's like, yeah, I wish you would have like talked, like let them in a little bit more on like my planning process and like what my dream was, outside of just a Pinterest board. Probably just like more conversation.
Yeah. I feel the same way about my own wedding. I look back and like there's not much I would change. I really loved it, but I wish I would have involved my family and my friends more. But at the time, it was like I don't want to put anything more on their plate. Like I'm already asking a lot. But like looking back, I'm like they wanted to be involved. But yeah. Okay. Is there any? Okay. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say it's like a catch-22, because it's like these are the people that want to help you the most. So you like want them to be a part, but then there's also that like, oh, like I don't want to overwhelm you
and
too.
You're like, I want you to enjoy the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like definitely like
caught in the
mixture.
middle.
Yeah, I know. Is there anything that you would be like, no, this was absolutely perfect, I wouldn't change a thing about your wedding day?
I think, well, obviously hiring you and Choi. I think the venue, I don't think I would have changed that. I just loved like it's just like isn't a place that a lot of people get married in Nashville. So I loved that. And I think like it being out of state, I don't think I would have changed that. Like I loved the aspect of not being in a place that we can go to like all the time. And now it gives like Nashville and Franklin like a little bit more of a special meaning to us than just like, oh, I grew up there, like it is what it is. It's like, no, like we got married there. So it's a little bit more special. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think just like the flow of it, I wouldn't have changed anything of that, like from the ceremony, our cocktail hour, the reception, like the bare bones of it all, and like the aesthetic and everything. Like I wouldn't have changed anything of that. like, 'cause I think the only things that would just be like more interpersonal, like communications and all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Is it what I can't talk. What stood out the most to you on your day, or like what was the most memorable?
I think just like, it sounds so cheesy, but like as soon as the ceremony was done and we like walked back to the end of the aisle, and I love it so much because I have the audio of it, so I know I'm not crazy, but it's like, you just like, Scott and I were just like, we're married, like, oh my gosh. So probably just like that, just like the awe of it all, and like feeling like a little girl, and like, oh my gosh, like getting all dolled up and everything, like that. Like, those are probably the biggest things.
I knew exactly what audio you were talking about.
Do you?
I remember like watching the video and you'd be like, oh my gosh, we're married.
Like it just hits you and you're like, wow, like I actually just did that. Yeah.
I know you kind of spoke about it, but were there like any unexpected like challenges or anything besides like, I know that you said like catering towards family dynamics and expectations.
Sure.
But was there anything else that went awry that you had to solve?
So I have told this to brides that if I've done their wedding, but there was bustling.
Backstory. Shay's also like low-key a wedding planner herself.
Very low-key. But I told all of my brides that whenever you go to get like do your final fitting, and they do the bustling and they show you like where all that stuff goes, to like make sure the person records it for you so that you know where because like the day of, like, people may have had like a drink or two, like, you know, inhibitions have left them. It's all white, so it's like you can't see it all. And that was probably the biggest, because I'd had like in my mind of like what I wanted our reception entrance thing to look like, and it not being bustled correctly, like it was like uncomfortable and like was shuffling at my feet and everything. So that was probably one. It was just like, oh, like my one rule I didn't follow.
Honestly, that is something that brides get so frustrated with on wedding days that I cover. They're like, why is this taking so long? Like, you guys know how to do it. Like, why is this taking a half hour to bustle my dress?
It's like one of those things that it's like you don't think about. It seems so minor, but like it takes up time, and yeah, it's like one of those little things. So that was one. And then I think also, again, like to the whole planner point, our seating chart and like not landscape, what am I trying to say, the flow of the room,
okay,
like that got messed up. And
it did?
Yeah.
What was messed up?
They like put different tables like in different spots, and then when they decorated, they put the table numbers in the wrong spaces.
Gotcha.
And so because of that, some of our family tables were like put in the back corner. And they're like, why are we back here? Like, I'm literally, like, one table is my grandmother. She's like, I'm your grandmother. Like, why am I in the back corner? And so, like, that was, like, one where it's like, like, I didn't know that it had happened. Like, I didn't realize. And so it's, like, one of those things where it's like, like, if I had someone to, like, really be able to, like, know, like, that could have changed. And then also, so we got married in the fall of 2021. It's November, and Florida fall is much different than Nashville fall. It was very cold, and I knew this, so we had a heater for the reception space and everything, but no one turned it on. And like by the time they realized like how to turn it on, they would have had to like reset the whole breaker and like turn the lights off and everything. And it's like stuff like that like I didn't know all that until after the fact. Like I knew, because we walked in, I'm like, oh, it's cold in here. I'm like, why is it cold? We have a heater. And so
the math isn't mathing.
Yeah, I'm like, we paid money to not be cold. Why am I shivering? But my maid of honor, oh my goodness, she's so sweet. But her husband and another friend of mine's husband, they were like trying to get it going and all this, and they're like, if we try to turn it on, like it's going to turn the power off and we're going to be like in darkness for a little bit. I was like, great. There's margaritas on the bar.
But yeah, that's a great thing about the reception though, because like I'd much rather it be too cold on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Like people are gonna
than like hot and sweaty.
Hot and sweaty. Yeah. Because I didn't feel a thing, but I was also like really bundled up because by that time I've really felt like a Florida girl. So I had like sweater on, wool socks, boots. Not all of your guests had that.
No, not all of them. I look at some people's outfits and stuff. Like one girl, she had on like a mini dress, and I'm like, oh, you were so cold, weren't you? So that was definitely one of them. And then I'm trying to think what else.
No wonder so many people were on your dance floors to stay warm.
Yes. They're like, shuffle with me. And then one other thing is, so the caterers that we had, we never got to do like a tasting for anything. And I wish that we had. They were family friends of my dad's that live in Georgia. And so like I'd never met them, but they were like, they knew me when I was little, and so like, this is like, we want to do this for you. But I never got to do like a tasting, like a real like menu setting. So I wish that I was able to do that. But really those are the biggest things that I can think of.
Yeah.
Are just that. And again, having a planner.
Yeah, right. You're like, and having a planner.
Having a planner.
Have a planner.
A planner's great.
What advice would you have for couples planning their own wedding?
Ooh, like DIY style?
Any advice?
This is
Like if they're planning their own wedding and it's like they have a crazy budget, DIY, just like overall, it can be very niche, but also it can be overall advice.
I would say don't. I would say like if you're really like on the DIY side of things, like scale it back smaller than what you think like you would want to do. Like yeah, at that point, like do it small scale, really intimate. And then at that point, like you put yourself to like set up to where you can have like a housing fund or things like that. Like looking back, like I wish Scott and I would have did a much smaller wedding, and like some of the gifts and things that people like donated to us and like money and things like we could have put towards like a house and stuff like that. So I wish we would have done that because I think it would have just helped.
Marriage or mortgage.
Yeah. Literally. But so I wish we would have just did that a little bit better. But also too, it's like you only get married once, hopefully. So I understand like wanting to have like a fun day and everything. So I totally get that too. But yeah, I would say like really together, like sit down and talk about like what are the most important things to you guys as a couple. And then build from there, because I think that's what helped Scott and I, like, in planning it all, is that we knew, like, family and friends are important to us. We knew that the pictures are important to us. And we knew that, like, people having a good time was important to us, so we built from there. I think a lot of times it can all fall onto the bride and, like, her mental load. And so it was good, like, the times that, like, Scott would speak up and, like, help me and everything, like, were times where I needed it. But yeah, I would say like start from the bare bones of like what is the most important to you? What are your goals as a family? Like, you know, do you want to be able to buy a house in the next few years? Do you want like how involved do you want family to be? Like things like that. Like I think that will help really like set the tone for like what your planning process can look like.
Yeah. And I feel like that's huge, and that's something you need to do like right from the start, because a lot of the times brides will come to me with like, I saw this on Pinterest and I want to do it, and I'll be like, why? Is it because it's trending on Pinterest and you see it on TikTok, or is it because it's truly who you guys are as a couple?
Yeah.
And that's like huge to me, because like I'll do it, like I'm hired to document your day how you want it, but I want to make sure that like you're not just doing it for like to go viral or something that you look back on and be like, why did I do that? That doesn't make sense for who we are as a couple.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Do you have any funny wedding planning stories? Or awkward, or even horror stories? But
I'm trying to think. I really don't. Scott and I are like so very like, I mean, I'm very goofy, but we're just like so even tempered that like there really weren't a ton of like crazy moments that I can think of, or like funny.
Oh, this is a good question for you. How did you and Scott prepare for marriage, not just your wedding?
Yes. So obviously premarital counseling. I definitely recommend doing that, because your wedding day is just a day. Like it's a blip on the radar, and obviously you celebrate it in years to like come, but it's a day. And I had to keep reminding myself of that. And it's like the wedding day's over and the next day you're like, so the rest of our lives, huh? But yeah, so marriage counseling was definitely, or not marriage counseling, premarital counseling was definitely something that we did with pastors that did our ceremony. So that was great. They got to like really know us, get to know like what were some of the tension points of our relationship, because I think a lot of couples think like that you want to project like, oh, we're fine, we're good. And it's like, no, if you leave your towels on the floor, I will freak out.
No, we went through premarital counseling as well. That was very hard for me to say. But it's like they kind of like, if you're not like tough about it, kind of like it's supposed to like either draw you guys apart or like you're gonna work through this because marriage is serious.
Yes.
And when we're going through it, we're like, we're scared.
Literally. I was so terrified. I'm like, are we gonna break up? Like, do you like me? But it really helped set us up for like, okay, marriage is not just like rainbows and sunshine like all the time. And I think we really like needed that. And I think too, like it helped us to like really work through some of the things that are like awkward that you don't want to talk about. Like one of them being like your sex life and like what are your expectations and like things like that. Like I just feel like it's one of those like taboo things that it's like, oh, I'll giggle about with the girls like over whatever, but it's like when it came time to like talking to him about it, I'm like, I don't know, we'll figure it out that night. I don't, you know, I'm like, it's so I'm glad that like we were able to have like a couple that we trusted to like really walk us through some of it because it helped set us up for the better.
For sure.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you have any wedding hot takes?
Hot takes. I think I already kind of said it, but elope. Scott and I have talked about this like several times. We wish that we would have had like a small thing with like family, close friends. You and Troy would have been a non-negotiable. Like find like a photographer that you love, whatever that looks like. Get the pictures, get like all that fun stuff, but like build for your future because it is just a day. And I think back and I'm like, there's so much money that like our family and friends like that just gave us that like went to a day that I'm like, I wish we could have had for like other stuff. Like I look at my wedding dress and I'm like, you were over $1,000. I'm like, do you know what I would do with $1,000 right now? Not buy a dress. I'll tell you that much.
I'm like, I'm going to lulus.com.
So like, I'm like, But that would be like my hottest take on it is like, if you're in this space where you're like, is it really worth it to have a wedding? Do we really want to? Like, don't do it. Go smaller than you think and like prepare for your actual life together. Because I think that it just matters so much more in the grand scheme of things. Even though a day is fun, we love it. Like it's fun to like celebrate with all your friends and all the things. But no, that would be my hottest take is like, scale it back.
That's so hard for me because my wedding, I feel like is so much different than everybody's because we got married in Boondock, small town Michigan. So we were able to have it really nice but really cheap.
Very
so
nice.
Like I'm like, I wouldn't change anything, but it's also because I didn't have to spend an arm and a leg on it. Where other people, like if they wanted that scale of a wedding down in Florida, it would look much different, and I probably would have made much different decisions.
Yeah, I think too, like our family was so generous in what because I mean, people just get excited when it comes to weddings. So they were so generous in what they like gave us. And like another thing too is don't do the credit cards. I've heard like this is a thing that like brides take out like credit cards, like your line of credit for their wedding. And they use like,
me.
Yes. And they use like the points and stuff to do like their honeymoon flights and all this, which I'm like, I see what you're trying to do. But that means you're starting off your marriage with like $20,000 in the hole. The math does not math. I don't care. Like that just makes no sense to me. But anyway, so our family was just so generous in what they gave us that I feel like looking back, I'm like, we could have used that to really set us up to like get rid of student debt, like all that kind of stuff. That we've tackled in the first few years of marriage. And I'm like, if we had done things a little bit differently, we wouldn't have had to.
I feel like it's so hard when you're in that like wedding planning mindset though. You're like, I'm gonna get married as my wedding day, and like you should definitely still celebrate it. It's still a beautiful day. But like I'm saying, like you're spending the rest of your life together. Like you were saying, spending the rest of your life together. You have to think about long term as well. But
it's a good. It is. It's like really flesh through with like your person, like okay, what really matters to us,
and if that wedding day does really matter to you more than
knock it out.
Knock it out. But if it doesn't, that's okay. And I think that's what's really great about the wedding industry now is it is so diverse now, and it isn't this is how you do a traditional wedding. Like people can have an intimate wedding with 50 people, can elope in their backyard, elope in Yosemite, elope in Italy, do destination wedding, do a 500 person wedding. I probably won't be covering that wedding, but they can do it.
I'll be your second shooter.
I'll attend. But it is really nice that it's not really expected of people to do it like a certain cookie cutter way anymore.
Yeah. And I'd say too, like, as much as we love to do it, maybe stay off of social media if you're like really in the thick of wedding planning, because it can sway you in so many different ways that like, I think for me there were different moments where I wish I could remember what it was that I wanted to do, and I can remember it was you or Mary that was like, why do you want to do that? And I was like, well, because I saw a TikTok. No, I think it was Mary. I think it was like some pictures that we wanted, or like something that we wanted to do.
I remember you coming to me with a few TikToks that you wanted to do though, and I'm like, yeah, maybe we can do it.
I don't think we did. Did we do it?
I don't think we did do it, but I was like, yeah.
It wasn't important, clearly. But I think like we see so many things, like we consume so much content that we think we have to be the next best, or like include our version of things, like and have a voice and everything, and like it just is not necessary. And I think that's where you get further and further away from yourself and like who you really are, even if you like the content, but like if you didn't have the idea originally, it probably isn't as close to who you like actually are. I don't know, but yeah, I would say stay off of social media as much as you can, and probably Pinterest too.
Yeah,
it can just get so cookie cutter. But
I know, because you're like, is this my style, or is this just because it's like the spring trend right now?
Yes.
Or
and
something.
because it looks cute on this pin, and and it flows with my board, so I have to do it.
Yeah, and not to be doing things to go viral or to like get a ton of likes, but like what I've seen on social media is the things that do go viral are the things that are super personal to that couple.
Yeah.
So like one of my friends, like she was a photographer, and she posted a reel of this girl that she redid. Her mom and aunt wore the same wedding dress. Aww. And she redid it for her rehearsal dinner, and it was so beautiful.
That is so sweet.
And it looked great. It was so cool, and that went viral. But like she wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, this is gonna go
this
viral.
Is my moment.
Yeah. Like she was just like honoring her mom and her aunt in that moment, which was super special.
That literally is.
Yeah.
Wait, I wish I would have done that.
I know. There's so many things that I think I was just like I was a young bride. I was 22. Like I was finishing up college, moving across the country, so many things. So I don't think I was intentional as I would have liked to be. And I tell Troy that like probably once a month.
Yeah.
Where I'm like the type of person that I'm like, I wish I would have like handwritten letters and had it on everybody's plates. And
oh my gosh, wait, that's such a good
idea.
idea.
That's so cute. But just
like shoot.
I know, exactly. Just be so much more intentional. So maybe that's like another thing, is like having a wedding planner allows you to take a step back and let them plan all the logistics, where you can plan more of like just honoring your guests and your family and friends that are celebrating you.
Yeah. Oh, I do have one last hot take.
No.
And it probably is really not even that much of a hot take, but if you have hired vendors, you have to trust them. Because if you don't...
Say that again.
If you... No, like, I just can't imagine in a world where, like, you pay people to do a service for you. Because at that point, like, you must have seen their work. You have to understand, like, what they're offering you. And then come the day and, like, you either critique them a ton, you don't trust what they're... Like, I don't know. I've seen that, and it just gets, like, really dicey. So, like, if you're putting your money where your mouth is, your mouth has to be shut on the day of. Like, you have to trust them. And trust them to do, like, everything that they've talked to you to do, that you guys have planned out. Because if not, like, you're only going to stress out the day of, and it's not going to... You won't have a fun time. So, just that.
Amen. As a vendor, I agree totally. Yeah. But I feel like as a bride, like, I was a very hands-off bride with my vendors as well. But I think that looking back, I would be more happy if I wasn't micromanaging. Like, I didn't micromanage. If I did micromanage, I'd probably be less happy with the result they gave me, because they're like so stressed trying to please me, like second guessing what they're doing. But if you just fully trust them, like, they're professionals, they know what they're doing, they're here to support you, they want what's best for you, like your vendors always do.
I saw a TikTok of this girl, like, trying to direct her photographer, and I'm just like, what?
I just hopped off a call with one of my fall brides, and she's the best. And she was just like, it's like a couple months out. Like, I've planned everything that I can plan. My wedding planner has it now. Like, I fully trust you. Like, that's why I hired you. And I'm just like really excited to enjoy the day. And I'm like, that's how I want every bride to be.
You're like, you're great.
Yes, I'm like, I love you. Because we just like have formed that rapport? Is that
Yeah.
rapport together? That
yeah. No? Keep going.
That she just like fully trusts me, and like she's seen my work, and that she knows like that she's gonna get good quality.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited about this episode. Honored to know you.
Yes.
To love you. To have documented your wedding.
Yeah.
And a few other things I don't know if you want to say. But
yeah, I was going to say next is we'll do a podcast about baby photography.
Yeah, I did their engagement, their wedding, their baby announcement, and then maybe soon I'll be doing their maternity, which is crazy.
Yeah, and birth.
And birth.
And
that'll
first
be a first
birthday, second birthday, all the birthdays.
And then I'll be doing their wedding.
Yeah. I'm like, you have to go with this person. I've already got your deposit locked in.
Okay, but yeah, guys, follow along. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple, and see all the clips on our Instagram at the Candid Wedding Podcast. And also follow me on Instagram at Alexis Biedenbaugh Photography. I almost said .com. That's my website. So see you guys during the next episode. Bye.